कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen, yaar, don't be so conservative. Yes, got a lovely book here. Of course, I should take my stupid notes out, which make it look bad. But this is a book about the one and only, the legend. Rare to talk about an actual legend on a show like ours. It's almost like he's too big and too good for the show. Dilip Kumar. Yusuf Bhai, also known as Dilip Kumar, rather known as Dilip Kumar. I was trying to show off that I know a little bit about the past greats. And past is the wrong word to use because he's an eternal great. And a fabulous story because brought to life by a man who's not from his generation at all. In fact, closer to my generation. I'll find out exactly the age. That's always a touchy topic. Faisal Farooqui has written a glorious book, In the Shadow of a Legend, Dilip Kumar. And it's a beautiful, humane story about his interactions, actually, observations, and just like he's hanging out with Dilip Kumar. That's what the whole thing is about, which is unbelievable. I'm sure he, as a child, would never have believed that this would have happened to him in his life. Faisal, welcome to the show, and please interrupt me because I'll just keep talking. I'm like
Thanks,
that.
Cyrus. Thanks for having me.
I can't do 9 languages like Dilip Sahab could do. I can do one language really badly, and I've already broken something in the studio. So you can see how excited I am. But I want to quickly say before we start that your surname is Farooqui. My dad's name is Farooq. Parsi say Farooq. Muslims say Farooq. It's the same name. And his pet name was Farooqui, you know. But of course, with that anglicized touch.
So we have some connection.
Yeah, you're my dad. Bro.
But I was going to add that I'm definitely much younger than you.
Pitaji, paisa de do. First question. Yeah. I knew you were waiting to say that. All right. The question, of course, won't be why Dilip Kumar. More interestingly, it's almost like sort of like an accident. So just let's go back a little bit and tell us, what was your knowledge as a young boy of Dilip Kumar?
You know, as a young boy, I obviously knew Dilip Kumar because he was a friend of the family. Or if you buy the book, you will know that.
You must buy the book, by the way. Huh? You don't worry.
You know, my brother, my older brother, who's 12 years older than I am, he was the first person to be introduced to Dilip Kumar. And then sort of like, you know, they became good friends and got introduced to the family. So I first saw Dilip Kumar as a 10-year-old schoolboy. And after that...
This is in cinema or as a human being?
At home,
as a man?
At home, as person, as a man.
So after that experience, this is the second great experience for you. When you walked into the studio and you met me, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
No.
Do not even.
I was overwhelmed. My heart rate was 8.
No, stop it.
When I met you, my heart rate was 102. I just...
Bas. Both ho gaya, sir. Both ho gaya. Sorry. Let's go back to this story. So 10-year-old and you meet him in the flesh.
So, of course, you know, I had no clue about movies at that time or even the understanding of who a superstar would be. But as I grew, I realized that Dilip Kumar was a big film star, and we all used to know him as Dilip Kumar uncle or Yusuf uncle in his private circles. The real interaction with Dilip Kumar happened once I finished college in the US and I came back. That is when I really discovered who he really is. And that's what I've written a whole book about.
But, you know, I just want to quickly focus on the fact that did you watch Dilip Kumar films? Were you like I'm a Viv Richards fan, for example. I know all the statistics. I've seen everything, you know, in terms of cinema. I'm more like Amitabh Bachchan generation, so know a little bit more about that. So was Dilip Kumar your thing? Was he your personal favorite kind of thing?
Well, I don't even know if I can say a personal favorite or not, because those were the days of VCRs, etc. when we were growing up. So, you know, antique zamana tha, and So one thing I definitely remembered was that a lot of the people in the family and the extended family were fans of Dilip Kumar Shakti. And Shakti was this movie that everybody...
Amitabh. They should say it on the poster.
No. Why would you say Amitabh versus Dilip Kumar?
It was poster.
Amitabh and Dilip Kumar.
No, they would actually say that. Amitabh versus Dilip Kumar.
I think that is injustice. It would be Dilip Kumar and Amitabh Bachchan. They carried the movie very well. So anyway, we knew that Dilip Kumar was this great actor. Lekin it was not in your face, like, you know how Shah Rukh Khan is in your face every day. Shah Rukh Khan for your breakfast toothpaste, you know, your coffee. Shah Rukh Khan now bringing groceries at home. So Dilip Kumar was never like that. So there was no branding as is.
Fair enough. Like, it was just a poster of the film in that sense.
Yeah, so that's how we knew Dilip Kumar. But at the same time, I think as we grew as a generation, we realized that Mughal Azam was this classic masterpiece that everybody had to watch. And I think that's how we all started appreciating, my generation, the generation born in the late 70s, etc., or the 80s, they started appreciating Dilip Kumar's work as a movie star. Of course, people who you will have stories and...
Faisal, he's the standard. I don't think it's changed. People are less inclined to understand and remember so much, but the fact of the matter, you always say Dilip Kumar is top of the heap. That's the name at the top, when you talk about Indian cinema and all that, you always say Dilip Kumar. In fact, that's the analogy used in popular parlance when people are talking. They say, "Arey, kya apne aapko Dilip Kumar samajhta hai?" You.
Correct.
I heard that growing up. That name was.
But he never talked like that.
Yeah.
He never even he never projected himself like that or
you
propagated.
Put that in the book that he was very uncomfortable with too
Yeah.
much praise. There's a guy who or gives a godlike, blasphemous sort of praise to him. I won't get into it, but because read the book to see all these incidents, and he was very uncomfortable. Yeah.
He often quote lines from a poem, Urdu poem. These are called shares. So once I told him that, Saab, so-and-so things, he said such things about you, and he was praising or adulation or fame, etc. And he would dismiss it by saying, "Ye tera khayal hai, tera jamal hai, tu hai." I mean, this is your thought, your beauty. This is you. Mujhko to tabish o danish nahi ki main kya. Which means I have no idea who I am. And, what a humble man.
But I want to ask you a question. Now you mentioned language. The fact that he could speak all these languages so well. I think Barn School was where he learned his English very well, etc. But it's not, everything. Urdu, he goes back to Hindko. What is Hindko? Some sort of Punjabi Urdu mix?
Yeah, Hindko is a language that is spoken in Peshawar. It is, I would say...
Wouldn't it be Pashto, I thought, if it's an overriding Afghan influence?
I think it's more of a Punjabi influence, or you can say it's a dialect of Punjabi, because it's very similar to Punjabi. I have not heard too many people
There is
speak.
a dialogue between him and somebody else in Hindko. I was trying to read it, and a lot of the words sound very Punjabi Hindi.
It is, it's very Punjabi, because, when Dilip Kumar and his sisters or brothers, they would converse, it would be in Hindko. And
you mentioned the Kapoor Khandan and him, they would speak in fluent Hindko to each other when they were talking.
Correct, because the Kapoor family also originates from that part of Peshawar. And that, in fact, in the same neighborhood also. It's just, I think, one or two streets behind each other. So Hindko was a dominant language in the 20s when they were growing up, and Raj Kapoor, his father, and they all moved here in the 20s, 30s, etc. So there is this familial connection.
He answers your question in the book once when you ask him, which is the mother tongue? Because he speaks comes out about 9 languages, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And he, without batting an eyelid, says Hindko is his mother tongue.
Hindko, yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
And the siblings used to always converse in Hindko. Even as late as, I would say, 3-4 years ago, just before lockdown, when I saw him talking to his brother, and they would be conversing in Hindko.
I think 3 of them passed away within a year of each other also in this pandemic period.
Correct. 2 of his brothers, they passed away within 2 weeks of each other during the pandemic. And that was in August 2020 and September 2020. And Dilip Sahab, of course, we all know, passed away on 7th July 2021, which is last year.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about my experience with Dilip Kumar later, because this is your show. I don't want to waste time giving you my input. Otherwise, it'll be, as usual, the megalomaniac discussing himself and Dilip Kumar when it's Faisal Farooqi's book. But let's understand a little bit. So you did go to America, but before that, there's a sort of friendship. Is it fair to say he doesn't see himself as a great man or game changer, which he literally was, and a guy who's left a legacy which perhaps will never be, seen again? And so but he, going to the book, you introduced him to IT stuff, you introduced him to Amazon, to Netflix, to all these things, and to the use of computer phones, etc. I was just going through all that. So he obviously took to you. He reminded me a bit of Shami Kapoor as well, similar in the sense that they seem to just happy to take on new things and learn new things, not stuck in their ways.
He was always curious. He was always in this mode of learning and listening. I think learning by listening, etc., was his favorite hobby. We know of his movies that how he was a somber person, and he would not have much of an opinion on like people who have in life these days, young and old. We all have opinions of so many things in life. But
so Twitter's wasted on him.
Yeah. so even a simple tweet would take for hours to be composed, and I think that is also how he reflected.
That's so rare
quality.
Actually, in the 21st century, ki measured सोच करके करते हैं लोग. Everybody just sends it out and then apologizes in 2 minutes because it's
quality. I think quality was something that he always focused on, and I think that was one of the reasons why he was very measured in terms of his speech, his actions. He used to focus a lot. Even even to answer a simple question, I mean, except for that Hinko, which came out instantly, he would take a pause, he would think, and I think that's how he lived his life. Very disciplined life.
But what was your impression of him vis-a-vis the relationship you had with him? You think you were like equals at the end of it? I mean, because he seems a very egalitarian man. We cannot separate the fact that he was this great actor and all that, no question, artist, etc. But he himself seems
Whenever I would ask him questions, he obviously would answer. But if those questions revolved around movies, etc., and he was like, "Yeah, अब ये तो मेरा काम था. क्या तुम अपने काम के बारे में हमेशा बात करते हो?" So, he was not very responsive if you would go into the details of a movie or
Man
some
of the world.
character.
You want to see more, yeah.
But he was very responsive if you would ask him a general opinion about something that would affect you, or he would, in his mind would help you better you as a person. Then he would respond, or some historical fact of his childhood or his family, etc. He was very sensitive about his past, in the sense that he used to go into these long reflections about his childhood. And I think he enjoyed his childhood. I think that is one of the reasons why he often talked about it in his autobiography.
Some would say a happier time in the subcontinent, but we'll leave that for another podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. But
maybe because the world was slower more than anything else. The world was just, sometimes I wonder, we just became too fast with tech and everything else. I know you're a tech guy. That's what you really are. So I don't want to disrespect the world. But do you think for a second?
I think, I've often said this at public events, that we thought tech would solve all the problems. Tech is becoming the problem for a lot of things today. And, you and I don't have to debate about that. It is very obvious how tech is creating problems. We still feel that, tech can be manipulated to cause problems in life. But at the same time, I think tech can be used to do great things in life, make communication accessible, make people more loving towards each other, make people more humane. And
well, Faisal, you're still a positive thinker. I just take medication and say screw them all. But let's get back to a couple of facts from the book. I didn't know he was not only football nut. I knew he was a cricket nut. There's lots of stories about him helping. So Yashpal Sharma, for example, is a story from our time in the 80s where Yashpal Sharma sort of got selection because he sort of spoke to, I think, Raj Singh, if I remember the story correctly, and all that. Because being a forthright man, this is the guy you should have in the team. But I didn't know he was very good at football, as in a player, which is in the book.
He was always very good at football. He would take deep interest in watching all the games, at the national level that happen in soccer, football, etc. But do you know that he got into Wilson College because of his ability to play football? It's in the book.
Which means he was really good.
He was really
you
good.
You can't just walk into a college because you play football. You actually represent the college, etc. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that scholarship was given to him before he entered movies because he was good at football.
Yeah, there are lots of interesting anecdotes and tidbits which tell me that you obviously had his ear, and for him to open up and say these things, you can't get these things without somebody feeling comfortable with you. The other one was about how the British took to him because he spoke the language better than them, which is something when I had to interview him for Keela, I was really worried because Hindi aati hai. Aisa nahi ki Hindi nahi aati hai, but I'm very worried that when I speak Hindi with the senior figure, I'll say something wrong. Because thanks to Mumbai and what we've done to the Hindi language, let's be honest. So I was really worried that Dilip Kumar, this legend, and I'm going to have to interview him. And if I say something wrong and this is badtamizi kind of word comes out by mistake, boom, things will just go in the wrong direction. But no, he spoke fantastic English. Secondly, he was so gentle. That was my impression. He was a little gentle. Again, I don't want to say that world was better, but just the sense of a gentleman. Right. Like perhaps what that generation was, just more civilized, more decent, more gentle, and very nice. He never, not for a second, made you feel intimidated or upset or worried. Within 5 minutes, it was like two guys having a chat. Exactly what I feel when I read your book. That he let you chat with him.
Correct.
Which I think is the greatest honor someone you respect and love can give you, right?
I think you're right. It's also about the generation, but I think with Dilip Kumar, it was more purposeful because he let you in. And I've posed this question in the book on a couple of occasions in the chapters that, I started liking Dilip Kumar because the person he is, the person he was, the great actor that he was and his work. But why did Dilip Kumar like me? And I think you
Great
just...
question.
And as you rightly answered just now, that after 5 minutes, he would make you feel so comfortable, like you just experienced with your first interview of Dilip Kumar, I think 98, 99, you were telling us the story. I think that substantiates the fact that Here, the subject would make you feel comfortable. And I think that is the hallmark of a good person. I think that is the benchmark. A lot of times, you go to interview somebody and you're trying to impress your knowledge on them.
Yeah.
I'm great. I'm Dilip
You
Kumar.
researched and come.
Bacha.
Dilip, you did this. Dilip, you did that.
I was doing Mughal Azam in 1960 when you were not even born. Like how you're trying to do.
Spot on.
Like how you're trying to do it to me today.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I'm so sorry, bro.
I'm Cyrus, bacha. Abhi to tumko kuch nahi malum hai.
Sorry. I apologize.
No,
That's
I'm
spot on.
just
No, that's a great observation. That's absolutely correct. It's an insecurity maybe, or it's actually the reason is more noble. You're trying to make the person happy or whatever. It's not a bad reason, but you're right. You try to do that, and then you over knowledgeify the whole situation unnecessarily.
Yeah, that's why his responses are very, very measured. He would not go into long stories about, okay, Saab, what do you think about Mughal Azam? He'll be like, what do I think about Mughal Azam? Achhi movie thi. That's all he would say. But if you're asking a specific, then he would tell you the specific. He wouldn't dump all the knowledge and then, go figure, do some analytical work, bring some analytical tools and do some number crunching on them. No. He would answer exactly what you asked in a manner that would make you ask some more questions or make him more endearing to you so that you become more familiar with the subject.
Again, not to point fingers at the Gaya Zamana and all that, but I wonder sometimes the art of conversation was just better. They just had a better way of talking. Maybe there wasn't so much. Again, you mentioned tech and all that, and again, don't want to point fingers. But I'm just thinking they just enjoyed the art of conversation better. That, so let's call them more sophisticated, educated in that sense, of course, but just enjoyed talking.
I think there was a lot of respect for each other in that Zamana. And I think that is one of the reasons why we miss that Zamana, because, you and I, when we were growing up in the 80s, I don't know, you were probably growing up in the 60s, but...
Why, Faisal? मैंने तारीफ किया. I mean, check them.
मैं मजाक कर रहा हूँ, Cyrus, but...
It's beautiful. Yeah,
but,
keep going.
When you and I were growing up in the 80s...
60s is good, yeah.
we still had that respect for people, for classmates, etc. And I think today it's all gaming and tech. I mean, I know the kids who were born post 2002, 2005.
Like these evil people in the room. Faisal, look around and you'll see them. Sparsh is 22. Bachcha 22 saal ka ladka hai. I mean, what do you say to someone like that? Beta, homework karke aana. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and... they're good people.
Too late.
They're good people, 22-year-old, 25-year-old. But they have a lot to learn. I think this is an age where they feel that they know everything, but they have a lot to learn. And I think we all went through that phase. But at the same time, I also feel that when we want to learn, we should look back at successful people who have mastered the art of becoming the great human being that they wanted to be. Not purposely, but unintentionally, they became ordinary people who became extraordinary. If you ask me, what do you like about Dilip Kumar? In one sentence, I would say Dilip Kumar was an ordinary person who became extraordinary by learning and through sheer hard work. And I think that is the potential every Indian carries in themselves and everybody out there carries.
True, but he had the ability to quote from different, cultural experiences, poetry. I mean, you mentioned Urdu, English, all the other languages that he spoke of. It's sort of learned touch to that. And that's also...
That is the hard work that I'm talking about.
Hard work and also a desire to do that, right? I mean, when we're growing up and by the time the next generation comes in, do we really care about all that? Sometimes it's just TikTok is taken over and that's it. I'm not pointing fingers again. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think it's a strange phenomenon that how we have let technology or devices rule our life rather than the other way around. I mean, there are people who respond to iPhone, Apple Watches, and get-ups.
He's looking at you all. Yeah. Guys, you can watch the visual
stream. The watch has notification. Like you and I having this freewheeling conversation, and if I had this iPhone watch on me, by now the iPhone watch would be dictating, I think you should drink a glass of water. I think you should get up.
Oh, man. Really?
And there are people who respond to all that, right? So I think tech is taking over. We need to inculcate this message in the new generation.
I'll put it this way, Faisal, from your point. Dilip Kumar would never have taken a phone call while three of us are chatting, know. But it's normal now when 4-5 of us in a room for, let's say, Sparsh gets a call and he starts talking. in the middle of the conversation with you. He doesn't even stop. He puts his finger up at best. Tamiz the ye hota, aur kuch nahi. But they wouldn't do that. So I'm just saying the art of conversation, respecting the person listening, the to and fro. They enjoy the experience. So that whole with the zamana, that's gone.
Correct.
That seems to have gone.
And Cyrus, you and I have probably...
We're on the cusp.
Yeah, we are on the cusp of this whole change that is happening. So there are people who are much younger than us, and they find it very cool and normal. And there are people of our generation who are trying to emulate that, what these kids are doing, and we don't know just how to handle that.
Yeah, like the old order changeth. Tennyson, my uncle once told me. Fair enough. So, world changes. You have to go with that. But I'm glad you've written this book because I really think we have to keep remembering all the greats that have, and the greats who remain human, as which is another great tribute. When you find someone who's really legendary and yet the human touch stays from start to finish, that he never took himself seriously in that sense, that he was more happy talking football with you or shairi or something like that, rather than discussing K. Asif's monumental work, which he's bored to death doing, if rightly so. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because it's mouthshut.com. You went to America, you became an IT pro, then you come back.
Right. I did my schooling from India, and I went to Jahan College for my junior college. I got my bachelor's degree in the
For
US.
those who don't know, in arts it's 70-30. 70 girls, 30 boys. In science,
Science, yeah.
Pata nahi. Oh, science. So basically, you may find a girl. Now it's changed. He's blushing.
Yeah, so Jahan was
We got Faisal blushing finally. Ek aur kitab hai isme. Come on, part 2.
Jahan was a school college, and so got my bachelor's degree from US. I went to State University of New York, and I, of course, at that time you either became a doctor or you became an engineer, and the great Indian family would say, "Ye dono nahi padha to aur kya padha?" So I took up a job as a tech consultant I got hired from the campus, took up a job, and was doing all these coding and tech consulting, etc. But then I realized that I want to do something of my own. I wanted to be a little bit of entrepreneurial. Internet was happening. This was 99, and Amazon was this big store that had opened in US, and they were trying to, I think from books they had moved to a few other categories, etc. So I wanted to explore what is out there that we can do as a first generational tech entrepreneur. So I took a break, and I decided to come to India. I explored India, and I was very impressed with the tech scene here. This was 2000, and I never returned back. Well, I had a return ticket. I never utilized it. There was this guy who was very happy one day, and he came home and he was elated. He was excited. So his wife was like, usually you're very gloomy when you come back from office. Why are you so happy and excited? And he's like, "Arey, sunti ho, aaj maine Indian Railways ko bewakoof bana diya." How?
I got it.
And she was also very excited. And she's like, how Indian Railways ko kaise bewakoof bana sakta hai koi, abhi to senior citizens ka bhi concession khatam ho gaya hai. So he said, I bought a return ticket and I never used it. I never traveled back. So I got this Lufthansa ticket and I did not use it. It expired. Of course, I went to US 2 years later. But is dauran, I decided to settle here, and my brothers and all were in US, but my mom was here, so got a chance to be with her and set up mouthshut.com. Built a team.
Which is just basically reviews and stuff?
Yeah, so mouthshut.com basically was the first platform in this part of the world that allowed you to be published and see your name as a byline. The way we did that was, the word blog and all had not been invented. So the way we did that was we invited you to share your experiences and write reviews on any product or service that you have used. We started with about 15,000.
But anyone can write?
Anyone, you can just have...
What is really bad and all that?
Yeah, so, we've had our share of people who sue us left, right, center.
But it's an opinion.
It's a review, Like
after listening to the show, if somebody writes something bad, Silvery, we should expect that. Faisal,
products, services, shows... airlines, movies.
Frankly, as a consumer, I like only bad stuff. Don't you? A lot of people read only to see the negative remarks.
I want to know, what things to be careful about before buying a product.
You came back from the US a bit late, yaar.
No, Cyrus was already this big brand on.
Oh, right.
On VH1.
Blame me for the downfall.
On Channel V, you were already this big brand.
Yeah, well, a sister channel, but fair enough.
So,
so you come back, you start this and...
Built a team, and then started. is something that I still continue to do. And of course, I've set up one more company in tech, which now I co-manage with my brother. Between the two companies, I'm very occupied. And of course...
So just to be clear, your main job is you're this IT professional. You've been very humble about it, but you could do coding and things on his own. So obviously it's not some joke. And you set up these websites. That's all going on. So that's Avatar number one.
Correct. That is full time
and stuff like that. And you do discussions with people, etc. about tech and all this. You're always fairly senior.
Correct. I do a lot of I do a lot of public speaking about tech. Initially, I used to do a lot of tech seminars. I've done keynotes. I'm not going to be exaggerating.
How much you charge, Faisal bhai?
I've done tech keynotes even in Cannes. I mean, once I told Dilip Kumar that I'm doing a tech seminar. I'm the keynote speaker in Cannes, and he was like, "Don't tell me that Cannes has tech seminars." And his idea of Cannes.
He went 50 years ago.
So he gave me that story about his experience in Cannes. But I've done, I do a lot of mentoring. I handhold first generation entrepreneurs in tech. I think we are all first generation entrepreneurs in tech.
This room, second generation. We have to take a quick break, Faisal. Lots more to talk about. I want to show the book again. It's called, take a look, In the Shadow of a Legend, Dilip Kumar, Faisal Farooqui. This is a very interesting story, trying to bring back the memories of Dilip Kumar. At one point, arguably the most famous Indian around the world, Dilip Kumar, the legend. And this story is about his interactions with him. And I think the most heartfelt and warm and just great to read. We'll come back and talk about that after this break, and we'll be joined by, I won't call him Dilip Kumar, but one of the best actors in Khar at the moment, a young man called Antariksh, aka Silvery. But first, the break. Welcome back. The book is called In the Shadow of a Legend, and truly a legend, the one and only Dilip Kumar, Yusuf Sahab, written by Faisal Farooqui. And if you turn to the pictures, because dumb people like me who can't read, what do we see first, Silvery? Pictures.
Yes.
There's a picture of a young Faisal with the legend himself. He's leaning over. It's actually the first picture in the picture section. Somewhere in the middle of the book, you will see it. And he looks exactly like Shah Rukh Khan when he was in Circus and those early TV shows.
Absolutely,
Fauji and all. You guys may not have seen it, but again, old men know all this. Don't you think so, Silvery?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just take a look. Look at it first.
No, absolutely, yeah. Very.
Amani, do you have a Shah Rukh?
Spot on, young Shah Rukh.
Like look thingy going on? No, it just happens to be like that. Have people told you that?
I have not brushed my hair or combed my hair in the last 20 years.
If Shah Rukh listening, we
You haven't
apologize.
brushed
That's not
your
what we
hair or
meant
combed
to
your hair in the
say.
last 20 years?
I just use my fingers.
Wow.
Oh, that sounded terrible. We'll separate that line and play it all the time. So Farooqui, intellectual.
That's damn good.
So I flick my hair with my fingers.
Yeah, he's lucky enough, bro, that as you grow older, he has hair. So those watching, be very careful. Sparsh also is full of himself at 22 with his long hair, looks like a rishi. But in about 20 years, come back and talk to us, bro. Yeah, Anupam Kher comes to mind. He was careless. Oh, sorry. Take that back. Faisal, let's talk a little bit about Dilip. This is Silvery joined us.
Hi, Faisal.
He's also an actor. I was joking about that, but he is actually an actor.
No,
so,
you are.
You're typical, let's say...
We're talking about the great
Mumbai.
Dilip Kumar. Let's not call me an actor.
So why not? It's like
everybody starts, right?
You start with Bradman and then you say, I want to be a cricketer or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
So what are your memories of Dilip Kumar as a young boy? Parents talk about him. You watched.
My parents are
Beyond
huge
Mughal
fans. Parents are huge fans. Of course, Mughal Azam has come up multiple times. I personally, very sadly, have not been exposed to his career as much as I would have been like to. But so in my memory, I don't have that many memories of Dilip Kumar, except for Mughal Azam, which I have seen.
So it's just a legendary status.
Yeah, just the legendary status, exactly. I've heard about
from your parents
the legends and the stories of Dilip Kumar and exactly.
You think the pictures will work now? I mean, he was ahead of his time, his acting styles, We discussed Stanislavski when I was sitting with him. I don't know how it all started. We were waiting for the shoot to happen, the interview for Kila, the film. And he was so interesting. He could talk about anything. That's also in your book. He really could talk about anything. You could just switch topics.
Yeah. No, I think his pictures really are relevant to the current generation also, if you are a fan of movies. And I think, for example, Madhumati. Madhumati is a fabulous story. I think Dilip Kumar often would say that movie is not just about the acting of the actor or the character that is played. It's the complete teamwork. And Madhumati is one fabulous movie. Mughal Azam, of course, is a masterpiece. Ganga Jamna. And I remember there's this actor who once tweeted that if you want to become a great actor, you don't have to go to any college or school or drama school. Just watch Ganga Jamna. And
Who's the actor?
I won't name him because I won't name him, but he got trolled.
Why?
Because he got trolled. He's majority of the trolls said, जब ये movie आ रही थी तो तू क्या कर रहा था? Why did you not watch it?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I would not name the actor. But overall, I think there are so many movies of Dilip Kumar which are just which are just not fantastic in terms of the storyline and the actor. And it's not just the adulation of Dilip Kumar that you and I are doing in this room right now, because we have a leaning towards him, or we've known him and you've known him as an interviewer. I've known him as a friend in my life or a father figure in my life. But I think it's the sheer art of it, the sheer entertainment value of it, and the learning. I think Leader was also a great movie, Kranti. So Shakti, extraordinary chemistry between the father, son, Amitabh Bachchan,
What a
Dilip
film.
Kumar.
I think
What
a
a
couple of
film.
scenes, the two of them together.
Yeah.
I was corrected about the verses. I was just quoting from the poster, sir. But two of them together, I don't know, it'll go
Wow.
in folklore as amongst the most powerful. Your hair
On
standing
screen,
at the end of
sure,
that.
sure, yeah.
People go and watch Shakti right now. Just for seeing these two together. I'm adulated, complete adulation for Dilip Kumar. If you read the early interviews, there was no question. He was God for him. There's no question about that. So you can just see how the baton was passed down. I think even Shah Rukh has said things right up to that generation. Dilip Kumar is mentioned as, as the standard, the benchmark. No question.
So I think it is relevant. I think the younger generation, they will enjoy. I think they are a little averse to the black and white.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So I think there is this whole phenomena of getting digitized, recolored, etc., and which is why Mughal Azam became very popular.
Something great about black and white. Also, I don't want to get sexist, but the women look so beautiful. Madhubala and all that. I don't know if you've seen. Just
Yeah, I've seen
fantastic. It's
some,
so pretty, and
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sounding like a creep. I better stop. Sponge is like, will you stop?
Faisal,
Uncle, band kariye bakwas.
When did you decide to write this book? Do you know?
Of course, a lot of my interactions were very personal. So I used to always come home, reflect on my conversation with him. Never decided to write a book.
You kept a log? Or it's just in the head?
No, it's just in the head. Wow. So I've talked about it in the author's note, how I recalled, etc. But the decision to write the book was after his autobiography came out. And he didn't talk a whole lot about himself. And people used to approach me and they're like, यार दिलीप कुमार ने बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं लिखा है अपने बारे में, और यूसुफ अंकल ने इतना अपने बारे में, there's just so much to him, but Dilip Kumar was never the type of person who would brag or who would write about himself so much. So that is when I decided. So I tried to convince Saira ji. Like, Saira ji, you should write a book. You should write a book. And she's like, nahi, mere paas time nahi hai. And, Faisal, what do I write? So I told him, I told her, Baji, you should, Baji, older sister, you should write about your love for Dilip Kumar, because, she has been in love with Dilip Kumar since the little girl of 12 years. So she said, no, that's just natural. I don't think it can be written. So I said, it'll be an inspiration for girls and boys, men and women of our generation. You'll be doing a service as to how to maintain this love with all the ups and downs. Here, we have one fight and then you're separated, and another fight, you're like together.
Hey, my wife comes back here, Faisal.
So I was like, these are called #couple goals. So she said, nahi. Then I told her that, okay, one day I'll write a book.
No, I get his point completely, because I think also you write a book, previous biographies, statistically it's great.
Yeah.
But you're telling us, like Mughal Azam done to death, it's all there.
Yeah.
You want the human factor, otherwise why am I listening to a biography? I want to know more. I want to know about him. So, when you find out that he, came to Bombay, lived in Bombay, from Peshawar, the fruit business, where he comes from, how he conquered languages, cultures, he had the ability to do that.
I've heard Dilip Kumar was very fond of cricket also.
Cricket, very, very fond.
Yeah.
And he was an athlete. He was
he could
pretty
play
good at
himself.
all this,
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
He was an athlete. He was very sporty. He was very. I think he kept himself fit by playing all these games. I know that with Raj Kapoor ji, they used to have football games very regularly. Cricket also. I've seen some videos of 60s where they were playing together. Professional cricket.
Yeah.
star cricket.
So where would you place them in the T20 setup? Would you put him at 5, Dilip Sahab at 4, and Raj Kapoor ji at 3? I don't know. It's a tough one. It'd be great fun to have a Bollywood 11 from way back. Yeah.
Have you ever been a part of these
I played a couple of these low celebrity matches.
celebrity
I
matches,
even won a man of the match. You won't believe it.
What?
You won?
Why?
By mistake. Because I went out to bat with Nikhil Chopra, who'd played a few tests for India.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, he said, you take first strike. So I said, okay. Then I asked him why. He said, yaar, Mumbai ka wicket ka kuch bharosa nahi hota hai. You just take it, then I'll be able to see ki bounce hai ya nahi and all. I said, what?
Wow.
I'm the guinea pig.
Sacrificial lamb here.
And the best part is I didn't wear an abdi guard. So I told him, after I said, boss, abdi guard nahi hai. So abdi guard nahi hai, Mumbai mein nahi. So apparently Mumbai is the worst wicket, for them from the north. So it's like, Mumbai, everybody wears the abdi guard. The ball can go on your toe or on your abdi in a second. I'm sorry, we digress.
Sorry.
No, but did you get injured?
I didn't get hit on the abdi guard, but everything I touched the edge of my bat and went for 4 here. Then I made 50 in no time. It was amazing.
And that is the accomplishment.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, but talking about
so you
Raji
were
and all,
saying
talking
something,
about,
I'm sorry.
Talking about cricket, them playing cricket and all, being into cricket. Raj Kapoor and...
I think.
But like he said, they have the Peshawar connection. They
That's
speak
true also,
Hindko. They must have gone back a long way. I don't know. Again, don't want to point, but India was a more communal community center. Not communal, the opposite. Community center, where people just got along better. You know, our parents growing up, the neighbors, the communities, where they grew up, individual parents' stories. I think, would you say that, Faisal, or is that being a bit harsh about today? I just felt that we were more comfortable.
I think even today people are comfortable. I think there
I
are...
don't know about that. I'm not allowed to eat certain meat in certain states. There are many problems. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a topic for another show.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Or maybe we're being cynical. Maybe you're right. You know, maybe we just look at, how, because once you start doing that, there's no hope for you. You know, you always look back and say better. You know,
Yeah, I think the past is always better, right? I mean,
ऐसा चाचा है because in my day, सुन के people go mad.
in the good old days.
In the good old days, people just
old
walk
days.
away. Yeah.
I've heard this story of Raj Kapoor and Dilip Kumar studying together in the same college, and Raj Kapoor, even when they were kids, saying to Dilip Kumar, who was then Yusuf Khan, saying ke अरे तू actor बन, तू actor अच्छा बनेगा. Even Raj Kapoor wasn't an actor then.
I don't know if
But
they were
something like that.
in the same class, but I know that they both attended Khalsa College at one point of time.
Okay.
And
He was in Barnes. I have friends who run Barnes.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It's an Anglo-Indian institution. So
Okay.
I know that, for example. Dilip Sahab was in Barnes. I
Yeah,
don't know about
Dilip
Raj
Sahab.
Kapoor. Raj Kapoor was perhaps somewhere in Chembur? I don't know.
no, I think Raj Kapoor's family was staying in Matunga at one point of time, and I think that's when he attended Khalsa College.
Oh, okay.
And I think Dilip Kumar was at Khalsa College for a year or two, and then he transferred to Wilson
On a football scholarship.
on a football scholarship.
Wow.
So imagine he was good at cricket, good at football, and then he became the best actor India's ever seen. Something.
Yeah.
And what did we do? with
Also,
our lives?
talking about best actor, he was the first ever, Dilip Kumar was the first ever actor to get the first ever best actor Filmfare Award.
Filmfare Award.
You think Faisal didn't know that?
I mean,
He's telling us
it's a
like
cool
breaking
fact.
news.
Cool
Yeah.
fact.
Cool fact also is that he has
Filmfare.
he has won the highest number of Filmfare Best Actor award,
Whoa.
which
wow.
I think Shah Rukh has just equaled now.
How many?
8, I think. 8.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. He's, yeah.
8.
That is so cool, man.
How many have you won, Siduri?
-8. I think.
Coming soon.
Yes.
Never give up.
They've
Coming
taken them away from me.
But more than movies, I think, as Cyrus was talking in the first half of the show, it's the language, it's the culture, it's the era that Dilip Kumar represented that we love today. And of course, we love his movies, but everything about him and the era around that. And Dilip Kumar was this one fine person who made the era more beautiful for us, who made us fall in love with the 50s and 60s, or the 40s, 50s, 60s.
For my impression, those couple of hours we spent shooting somewhere in Juhu was that, I mean, he was just really cool in the sense that he was just easygoing. He was soft-spoken. He was very soft-spoken. So I had to, you know how I am, I'm a little boisterous. Dilip Sahab, no. But he would talk, and it's just like the movies, the delivery tone was, and immediately you'd come down to that level. And then you'd have a normal conversation. All this fluff goes out of the window and normal conversation. And we were waiting for the damn thing to start, and we just chatted. And we hung out. So I have that in my head. I hung out with Dilip Kumar and he treated me like an equal. And we just sat there and chatted. And we discussed anything from politics to cricket to, I don't remember, a variety of stories. Wow. But he didn't stop. He was, that's why I'm sure it was great fun for you also, because once he opens up, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, and this book that I've written is my, 20 years of experience and hanging out with him. And I think that is the reason why I felt, I'm not qualified enough to talk about movies or criticize or appreciate a movie.
You have mouthshot.com where we can all talk about movies.
Exactly. But as an individual, I think I'm not qualified to pass a judgment. That is the reason why I said I'm not going to talk about his movies or his work. I mean, it's been done, overdone. Half a dozen books have been written about it. Everybody knows about it. Let me talk about the human side of it, the personality, the man behind the camera, the person that you have interviewed, and you have this deep impression even today, like 25 years later, or the person.
What could be a higher praise than, say, a guy you can hang out with? Anywhere, in any culture, anywhere in the world, you can sit with someone and chat. I think that would be the greatest honor a man can give another man. That I could just hang out with this guy. I mean, it sounds disrespectful in a way, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I totally understand. And that is the reason why, the 55, 56 years of age gap that I had with him. Melted, exactly. Yeah. And it was fun to hang out with him, as you said, quote unquote, hang out. I mean, we hang out with like somebody who's our age. And here I'm hanging out with somebody who's 55, 56 years older than I am.
Although it doesn't always work out because I'm older than you and our relationship is not that good.
You're older than me by 50 or
50,
something.
52, 53.
Yeah,
दो तीन साल की 19-20 का फर्क है. Don't make a big deal out of it, yaar. Okay, before we go into a quick EMA round, one question. What was his impression of you think? What would you think he thought of young Faisal Farooqui, following him around, chatting? I wish we could talk about the jogging stuff. Which
I think he enjoyed my company. I think he had seen me transform myself in front of him as this little boy, 10 years, and then like this
IT
successful IT entrepreneur, quote unquote successful.
अबे तो बोल दिया.
Yeah. So he was very happy. He had visited the office also a couple of times. He sat in my chair.
There's a nice picture. I think that's the picture we referred to also.
And
sitting in his chair.
He hung out with the folks who were working in the team at that time, and he blessed us. So
would you show him off when he's hanging out with you? The other guys come in, and Dilip Kumar and you are like buddies. Would you
No, I think people in the office knew about the connection and the chemistry, but at the same time, I think visibly he was very happy as a family. And as an individual that I've made this progress. But at the same time, he never tried to impose any advice or opinion. The one advice that he was very explicit about was don't overexpose yourself to the media. And he gave me this example. He said, Dilip Kumar for breakfast, Dilip Kumar for lunch, Dilip Kumar for dinner, and everything in between. Then people will get bored of Dilip Kumar too. So I think in a way he was also...
Kim Kardashian is doing fine though. Har jagah pe Kim Kardashian.
Instagram,
Limit to that. Yeah. I wonder what would have happened if Dilip Kumar was in this age. Firstly, he would have got so much more attention, I'm thinking, to begin with. Because like you said, just the world is more connected. That just changes everything.
It does, but at the same time, I think he was very grounded and he was not too influenced. I mean, he had never done small screen in the sense that he never did TV. Although he knew the impact of TV on the current generation and how, TV was, or sort of TV had overtaken cinema at some point of time. Mm-hmm. But he never fell for it. KBC was first offered to him.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Kaun Banega Crorepati was first offered to him before the first season in 2000. And he politely declined. And he knew that this was going to be this big TV opportunity. But yeah.
Stayed true to his art.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, like you and me, bro, stuck in a podcast, can't get any other work. Anyway, Faisal, before I know you have to rush, but
he was satisfied. I think he was satisfied of life.
There's nothing wrong in having, I won't call it limited ambition, but not being overtly ambitious because it's almost like vicious sometimes. No? How people we have to grow, and they start doing everything. Also, I think he knew his worth at the end of the day. He knew he was Dilip Kumar. That name is not going anywhere. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. It's a different story altogether.
Correct.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
And I'm glad you've written a book so that every memory is sort of relived. Because people don't know, and every generation like Sparsh, you have to know about all these things. You have to know. This is what our country should be promoting instead of some of the stupid things that they make you promote. Like I won't mention, but when I go to watch a movie, sometimes we do things I think are unnecessary. I won't mention it.
All right.
Sir.
Fair enough.
Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Bored Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me.
All right, let's get to some AMA questions. This first one comes in from Rudra Khimani, who says, Hi, Cyrus and Faisal. Cyrus, I've been listening to the show for years. Hope you never stop doing it. For Faisal, what is the one thing that actors and stars of today have forgotten about Dilip Sahab, or where actors of today fall short of the legend?
The actors don't get into the character. I think they think of themselves as bigger than the character of the movie.
I am.
And they always bring their own nuances rather than doing justice with the character. If the character is a humble, poor
So you believe
guy,
your myth, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's not even their fault. You make them so big that they forget, that they're just acting, and then acting is something else. It's them.
I think they learn by making mistakes, and then the movie flops, and then they rediscover themselves once again, I think.
Oh, fair enough. So life is important.
Yeah.
Podcast mein koi success
Life
nahi hai, so
humbles
we
you.
won't understand this. You can't
Yeah.
empathize with what he's saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But you have to go up and down for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's fair to say Dilip Kumar kept it he finished his work, like he mentioned to you, work ho gaya to ho gaya, and after that he's, normal guy who's looking at sports or discussing whatever he's discussing on the family table, etc. He was able to do that break, the cut away from the stardom.
And that is one of the reasons why he did, one project at a time. He never took multiple movies. Today almost everybody has multiple projects going on simultaneously.
Yeah, that might be a sign of insecurity also, na? Ki jitna bhi kaam kama sakta hai, paisa kama sakta hai, do it.
Jaldi kar lo.
I think people think like that. Literally, they start believing they have a 5-year window or 10-year window or whatever, and they just do it. I don't know. I think we are the wrong people to answer these questions. You've talked to successful actors for this. Faisal, where have you come? What are you doing with your life? Next.
Next one comes in from Pallavi Rao, who says, Hey, Cyrus and Faisal. Huge fan of Cyrus Says. I wait for your takes on popular topics. I'm in my second year in college right now. I've been really obsessed with books for most of my life, and I aim to be a writer and author after college. Since you both have already written books, what's it like to write and publish a book? How long does the whole process take? Is having the book published difficult?
Pallavi, writing a book is a mental process. And this was, obviously, I'm a first-time author. This was my first book ever. But first, you have to be very clear as to what do you want to write about. Second, once you've decided what you want to write about, you should have a person or a group of people that you're talking to. So my book is more conversational. I have this imaginary group of people who probably don't know Dilip Kumar too much, who are probably in their 20s, 30s, and they're trying to discover. And that is the audience that I have in mind. And when I was typing the words, when I was editing the words, all the chapters, etc. So you should have an audience in mind. And third and foremost is it's a long process. It requires a lot of patience. I finished this book. There are a lot of things that you cannot plan, which happens. I finished this book in 2019, and then suddenly this pandemic happened. And then one publisher said that, you've quoted so much. I want a letter from Saira Banu that she's endorsing the book. And I'm like, oh God, I have to give this whole manuscript to Saira ji now. So the publisher said that without her letter, I will not. So I had to give, those whole story to Saira ji, and then Saira ji gave me a letter. And by the time I got the letter, pandemic happened, the publisher...
I wish you had told me this earlier, because I come from a line of lawyers and we would have helped you immediately. You wouldn't have to get any... we'd have put a disclaimer. That's it. Nothing more. Sometimes the author was not in his senses.
Yeah,
so you have to just say that. Yeah.
And second thing is, I was lucky enough to have a literary agent who represented me to all these book publishers. So Pallavi, I think, get a storyline, decide who your audience is, and then keep writing, and one day it'll happen.
But will Faisal write another book now? And are you going to be in the bio space, or will it be something else?
No, I think it takes a lot of time. I'm not sure if I want to write another book. This was my tribute.
It's a special relationship.
Yeah, I think this was
a
tribute. This is a special relationship, as you just rightly said, and I wanted to document that fact.
See, I am just looking for someone to write my story, bro. In fact, I'll write most of it. All you have to do is just take, onus and credit at the end. That's all. Because I have to invent romance and all that. That's not much. You said you have to sell the book, and
Correct.
If Faisal's not impressed, he wants to go back to New York. He's thinking, "वो ticket है मेरे पास, जेब में देखो एक बार."
All right. And this last question comes in from Harsh Rajput. He says, "Hi Cyrus and dear guest." He says, "I'm from Itarsi in MP, regular listener of the show. Being from Itarsi, I don't always understand what Malabar Hill area, where you stay, Cyrus, is like."
Yeah, well, not just me. All the politicians that run the state are there. Please take them to Madhya Pradesh for me as far as possible. They've destroyed where I live. Yeah.
He goes on to say, "My understanding is."
Yeah.
My understanding is that it's a part of South Mumbai and is full of snobbish rich people who are more often than not spoiled.
Snobbish is the wrong word. Selfish, disconnected, yes. Snobbish is that's another story altogether. They're not actually snob. Disconnected, living in their own world. That in that way, yes, definitely.
So Harsh is going on to say, is this all correct? Or are these just wild generalizations I've made based on what you've said on the show?
Faisal is writing about Dilip Kumar. Why? Because he interacted with him. He's not an act of fiction.
Yeah.
My whole point is people should write about where they come from, not be ashamed. Whatever it is, and there are lots of issues you want to talk about. Talk about Italian-American films, about Italian-Americans, the people, culture we don't even know or whatever, but we enjoy it once you're watching it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're talking about themselves. Indians are too complex, I feel sometimes. Whoever you are. Just talk about it. It's a story. It's not about who you are. That's what we want to hear.
Also, lastly, where would you like to live in India if not in Mumbai?
Canada.
in India.
Faisal's just smiling. But he came back, so I don't know. Yeah.
Canada brocha.
India, I would like to live in a hill station area for sure, yeah. One of these Kunoors or just where there's some nature, something to look at.
Go to Lonavala.
Not Maharashtra. I think I've had a little bit too much of Maharashtra growing up now. I would like to go back either south or north, and just find an area probably where people have all come from. It would be Ghar Wapasi, another meaning altogether.
Faisal, do you get to visit Mumbai often?
I'm from Mumbai.
You're from Mumbai only? Oh, okay.
You weren't paying attention, Silvery?
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were from Delhi or something.
No, I'm from Mumbai. I grew up here in Bandra.
Oh, you grew up in Bandra?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's got an American accent. This is not
That's true, actually. Yes.
I'm not from New York.
He's not a Delhi accent. He's not from Nerulas. You're worried about that.
Or Meroli. Yeah. I grew up in Bandra.
Where would you like to stay, given a choice? In India?
Oh, in India, I think India is such a vast country that making a choice of one particular city or town is very difficult. But Bombay, I feel myself in Bombay. Vacation, there's so many places. I definitely don't want...
Not vacation, it has to be stay. Vacation though, theek hai. Vacation ke liye kahin pe bhi ja sakte, no question.
Yeah.
Where would you stay if not Mumbai?
Okay, where would you stay, Cyrus?
I can't think of a place immediately.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
But I can think of the terrain. I want mountains. I want no people around. And I want one thing, Zomato must reach me. I'm very dependent on Zomato.
I just returned from Kashmir. This was my first ever trip
to
Kashmir.
I've never been.
It is beautiful. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was a little apprehensive. I mentally toughened myself to be like, okay, I'm going to Kashmir. But it is a one beautiful place. And not just Srinagar, but everything.
I have only one fear. And my fear is very different from other people. My fear is I go to a so-called cold place and I feel hot. So then my worry is कि AC नहीं है.
AC नहीं होगा.
अगर AC है तो AC का काम नहीं चलेगा नहीं बराबर.
I highly doubt you need an AC.
Brother, I've been to Holland and I was sweating. I've been to London, I was sweating. I've been everywhere. Now Kashmir, they tell you cold. All we grew up in all these movies, background, snow-capped mountains and all. I'm very worried. I'll go there, I'll feel hot.
I have the reverse problem. I feel cold everywhere.
पहले किसने बताया? मेरे put the AC on यार.
I feel cold everywhere.
Thank God it's over.
I feel cold. Even in Bombay, I feel cold.
What are you saying?
Serious. So I tell people I've had my share of snow. The place where I went to college, we used to have 6 feet of snow often. 6 months of snow. So
Where is this?
Upstate New York.
Upstate?
Yeah,
Okay.
upstate New York.
Syracuse?
Yeah, around the Syracuse area,
Okay,
Binghamton.
okay.
So... But
Wow.
Kashmir was one beautiful place. Wow. Last 20 years, I was planning to go there. I never mustered the courage to. But this time...
Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, this time there was an event and we all went.
That best holiday. No, a paid for holiday. I get your point.
No.
You're an Indian at heart. I can see through you.
No, it was... It was not a paid for holiday. Of course, it was self-paid. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of us in the family who got together and we went there. And I think it was one fabulous place. I think we are blessed as a country to have that land.
Wow.
And I just hope that things become great once again.
I have a solution for all problems on boundaries. Let me run the world. I'll eliminate all countries. You all have numbers. Everything will just be a number. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Just like that. And Purusha Sahab, hum log aa gaya. It's our national day. No national day. That's it. Number 7, don't talk to me. I run the world. I think it's a great idea, yaar. Write a book.
Yeah,
Make
absolutely.
notes.
But Faisal, you were also saying that you were a little hesitant to go to Kashmir, right? When you
In last 20 years, I've been
A lot of people
planning-
get worried that will attack happen, this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
huh?
right. So,
To
but
go
then
to
is that all just hearsay and like in our heads, or is it actually a problem?
It's a naive thing to
Yeah,
say.
I just went there 2 weeks ago, and I think it is one safe place.
Okay, that's
It's an amazing place from a tourist point of view. It's a very cool place from exploring different places there within and around Srinagar. And at the same time, I think people are just nice. They're very nice. They're very hospitable. They go out of their way, especially when they know that you're visiting them for a few days, and obviously because you get very distinguished, identified that you're not from Kashmir. Obviously, right?
Yeah, sure.
You can't do the North Indian thing and just have a fast drawl and pick it up. Yaar, main to yahan se, you can't do that.
Yeah,
in
you
Kashmir.
can't do that,
They
right?
can actually tell.
You can blend in UP, you can blend in Haryana.
Up to Himachal, mein, okay. Then you start getting exposed. Yeah.
Yeah, but they treat you very well, and I think it's also very budget friendly. There is at least Srinagar, I found is budget friendly. You can have a room for like 1,000 rupees a night, up to
Bro,
20,000.
if you're willing to share the room, anywhere in the world is
No, up to
budget friendly.
20,000 rupees a night. So
20,000 rupees.
yeah, it's one of
That's
the
not
hotels.
budget friendly.
That is not
What is
budget
the book
friendly.
is
That's what I'm
selling?
saying.
The book is clearly selling. He's doing really well, yaar.
No. I'm saying you can have a room for 1,000 rupees a
Okay.
night, up to 20,000 rupees a night.
Fair
So you
enough.
have
It's all
everything
to-
in between.
If it's cold and I don't need the AC, I can go for the 1,000 rupee one. But I'll go there and it'll be the sunniest day in 20 years in Srinagar. It's just my luck, I'm telling you. It's true.
But it's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's peaceful. Of course, you have some security protocols and all, but it's very peaceful, and we really
I
enjoy
live in
it.
Malabar Hill. There's security protocol every 5 minutes and nobody knows who the chief minister is. It's like that. Do you understand
Nobody
the problems
knows
we
the
are going
chief
through? Kashmir is nothing compared to Malabar Hill. Malabar Hill is where all the pain is and angst. No one is taking this up seriously.
Yeah.
You write a book for me.
Yeah. For Cyrus Bocha, just
Okay, listen,
about
Faisal has
your
to go.
road
He's got real important calls to
Yes,
make.
correct.
He's had enough of us infantile people on his show. The book, once again, it's by Faisal Farooqui. It's a tribute to Dilip Kumar. It's more than a tribute. It's just conversations with him, talking to him in the shadow of a legend. Go and buy it. Get this book. Keep it at home. It's something that the family can read. Everybody can read. It's great fun. All right, let's not ever forget the legendary Dilip Kumar. And thanks to
Thank
Faisal
you,
Farooqui.
Cyrus. Thank
We
you,
won't.
everybody. Thank you, Sparsh. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, the whole team, and thanks for having me here.
All right. Sir ka check banao. Huh? Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you, we need you. Send us your questions on Twitter on Cyrus Says In. Or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.